What do I want? I want something that's not average. I don't want an average life. I don't want an average business. Hell, I'm wearing a fur coat to your podcast interview. Like, I thought I was supposed to like box myself in some perfect box and be like, yeah, that's who I am.
The outcome that your dream client wants should remain in the box. The way you get there, that's where the opportunity comes for you to stay out of the box.
And I just can't write those emails. I would be like, okay, today's the day. And I'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna go post on LinkedIn. I would do anything and everything else and not write those emails.
How many referrals have you asked for in the last 3 months?
Explicitly, I haven't asked for anything. I feel like I can get other people excited for anything else besides myself.
We're going to get you past this right now, okay? So here's what you're going to do.
I love where this is going. This line of questioning from you, Craig. I'm glued in too.
Do you see what I just did?
Holy That felt supernatural.
Welcome to the Growth Question. And Olya, why don't you kick us off by telling us a little bit about your business?
First of all, thank you, gentlemen, for having me. John and I already did an episode in 2025. So it's our second rodeo. My first time meeting Craig, but I'm super excited. So I think to give like a super quick summary of what I'm doing today and like how I got to this, basically my career is what I call half and half. Maybe if it's like coffee analogy would be the milk, right? So it's half Fortune 500, 100 doing like all sorts of marketing. And then I switched for the other half to startups. And I guess I was like lucky or privileged or whatever to actually start PayPal, which was of course like the best school you can ever get working at startups. And so I switched to doing growth. I mean, I'm showing quotation marks because a lot of like different people would understand it differently. But all in all, I was always in-house, either CMO, head of growth, or you name it, all those different titles. And then last year, I had what I call a micro SaaS founder journey. Lovable obviously enabled me to do so since I'm clearly not a technical person. And it was a very nice ride, but since Lovable has its own limitations, so did I. So I shelved the thing and finally decided to try what a lot of people have been basically pushing me to try, which is, well, let's call it consulting. But of course, the eccentric person that I am, I was like, I'm not going to just do regular consulting. I don't want to be boxing myself into all of those like vertical roles, like, you know, fractional CMO, fractional whatever. I needed to invent something else. I was like, hey, who am I? I kind of feel like a mad scientist, you know, what's that, the Breaking Bad type of thing. And I was like, so I need a lab. And then it hit me. I'm like, I've seen all of those venture studios helping like companies go from ideation to an MVP. I'm like, what if there was a counterpart that was scaling companies? What if there was a lab where companies who are at the inflection points could come in, get diagnosed, get patched up, and off they go. So I started that a couple of months ago, and I wasn't sure where that was going to go, but somehow I magically scored several clients without even really trying. And here I am today. So I had to basically kind of like make things up as I go. If any of you are listening, please, I know what I'm doing, but you know that you're my founding clients. And I'm enjoying the ride, but at the same time, like I said, I'm like making it up as I go, meaning like programming methodologies, etc. Like I have it all in my head. But at the same time, it's like I have to like put the rails down as the train is already moving. And holy shit, some days are really bad. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that feeling. Just trying to build something as you're going, figuring it out as you go along, trying to understand who you best serve, how you best serve them. Yeah, I think that's very common among most of us. So if you were to describe your main offer as it stands now, what does that look like?
So I arrived at this 90-day sprint because I wanted it to be somehow finite, as in like that's one of the, I guess, how to call it, definitions of a lab. Like it has, like when something goes into the lab, it is supposed to come out of there. So it's not like indefinite consulting. And I realized that it's somewhat a repeatable process. So basically the first step is what I call due diligence. That's what I guess a lot of venture capitalists would also use when they take a look at the startup. So they do due diligence on them to realize what's actually going on. So both data and interviews with the team to just get all of the context, because you can only get the full picture from both like quantitative and qualitative conversations, or rather information, sorry. Then it's basically sequencing for them what the priorities should look like, and then helping them kick them off more in like project manager capacity rather than really a hands-on person. So that's what I've been attempting so far. And I mean, it is a repeatable process, but at the same time, I haven't really niched it down to a certain like category. I mean, I only work with product companies, so I won't work with like an agency or a consulting business. But I do have a couple of digital products and a physical product, and I haven't worked with physical products for a while. So for me, it's like, oh gosh, it's like new abbreviations, new things. Like, how do I deal with that? And it's like different tools, different everything. So I feel like an old dog learning new tricks. But that's why I'm like, there is a repeatable process. And so do I niche down into more like, okay, I only work with SaaS, for example, or do I still keep it large to product companies? So basically, like, there are so many questions that remain unanswered for me today. And is there a phrase in English that goes something like the shoemaker without the shoes? Like, I can make shoes for everyone else, yet I'm sitting here barefoot.
Yeah, it's the cobbler doesn't. I forget how it goes. My last name is Shoemaker. So you'd think I'd be very familiar with this, but
Right?
yeah, the cobbler's children have no shoes is basically what it comes down to.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you said you feel like you're the old dog learning new tricks. What are some of the new tricks that you think you have to learn in this realm?
I mean, really just new platforms, because physical products have completely different distribution styles, distribution channels. So a lot of times it's just really learning new tech and understanding, I guess, different approaches to attribution and stuff like that. So it's really not new tricks. It's more like same tricks, but different prop, if that makes sense.
If you're enjoying this conversation, the fun does not have to stop here. You can get regular insights from both John and I on how to build and grow your business without getting stuck in the frustration of going alone. So go to tgq.tools/signup so that you can get this type of coaching found right here on the growth question, delivered straight to your inbox. So if we were to boil down what people come to you for into like one or two sentences, what would that sound like?
In funny words, sanity check. Like, so basically, once they get a certain growth point, it's very easy to stay busy because there is always things to do. I mean, early stage too, but especially when you're scaling, the cost that they would pay for moving in the wrong direction would be a lot higher than, for example, just going slow in the right direction. So founders who understand that get my methodology like this. They'll be like, oh yeah, that's exactly what we need. We just want somebody to like double check what we're doing and to help us better understand the sequencing of our actions, the trade-offs, etc. If we are being realistic with our goals, because a lot of times there is what is it called? Hopeful optimism. Basically, they tend to overestimate how good things are going to be, and there is always something that's going to happen. So for me, it's like, okay, you should have two goals: realistic and kind of like the stretch goal. Whereas usually founders, they think this is realistic, although this is really a stretch, and then it really affects team morale, etc. So all in all, I call it a sanity check. And then basically reshuffling of their roadmap in terms of both product and GTM. Sorry, GTM is go to market. Oh yeah, if I use like a ton of abbreviations, you should just like pause me and be like, what the hell was that? Because I'm so used to just like, talking to the same audience who get all of those abbreviations.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think this is a great kind of way to get into your question now. And the question that you asked us was, it's one that you're emotionally entangled in. My work sits at the intersection of systems, decision-making, and founder identity. I want to sell without becoming salesy and share personality without diluting authority. How do you think about platform choice and content mixed when the product requires trust, taste, and cognitive authority, not necessarily just volume? dropping in lifestyle design for myself. I have 2 small kids and I need to be able to squeeze my work into 6 hours or less. So a lot there. And what I'm kind of hearing is there's a lot of things, there's a lot of different hats that you wear when you're working with these businesses, when you're working with these founders, and when you're working on measuring, outlining, and reaching the goals that they have. You've built the business from referrals already. How do you take that now in a succinct messaging and put it into different distribution channels to grow the business? Is that kind of like a fair kind of encapsulation of the question?
Pretty much, it's like, how do I package something that hasn't really been packaged yet? How do I attract the right people who probably don't have this exact wording in their heads? Like, basically, how do I address their problem without having to like lie to get the foot in the door? You see what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't want to put one of those like fractional CMOs, COOs, or whatever on any of my messaging, but apparently somehow that's what gets people's attention today because they simply know what it means exactly. Like, how do I stay true and authentic to what I do, and still be able to like have initial conversations with people without them being confused or basically thinking, oh, I don't need this, even though they're
Well,
probably misunderstanding my whole positioning.
take us like high level, right? Broad strokes, both technically and like messaging wise. Like, where are you sharing kind of your messaging? And then broad strokes overview before we get into pinpointing exactly how we could hone it. Like, how are you articulating your value, your services, and your offer just on different
So,
distribution channels?
so I'm currently super active on LinkedIn, obviously, because it seems like a super, obvious outlet for what I'm doing, or rather like place where my ideal customer personas are hanging out. And I recently started Substack as well, even though I'm just really treating it as a distribution platform. I'm not really like engaging on it like other people do. And I think most of my messaging is really sitting in my headline on LinkedIn, in what I have on my website, even though it's like a continuous work in progress, obviously, because I'm an Aquarius, so everything is a work in progress, like perpetually, never stops. So I want basically my whole strategy on LinkedIn is commenting because that's how I want to build, authentic connections. Like, I'm not gonna do any like cold outbounds like, hey John, I see you're doing X, so I think Z would be really helpful for you. No, I don't want to do that. For me, the whole business plan or business model is not volume. It's rather like hitting the right person at the right time, because then I can come in and really fix their stuff. Because for me, what matters at the end of the day, and that's why like identity work is important for me, I want to deliver impact. I don't necessarily care about the money. And I know it sounds cliche, but like, I don't want to get paid just to get paid. Like, what really drives me, what makes me happy at the end of the day is going to bed knowing, fuck yeah, I fixed their stuff. Fuck yeah, their revenue is really gonna go up. So what makes me happy is going to bed knowing that I made a difference, both for individuals at that company and a company as a whole. And now I completely forgot how I came to this. Oh, so basically the
Well, you're
only
talking about your
place
LinkedIn
where,
strategy.
yeah. So
Yeah.
basically the only the place where it's really getting a test right now is everything I have on LinkedIn. So basically my LinkedIn headline and the description, because that's the first thing that people see, either from, when they read my headline while I'm commenting on their post, or if they go look at my profile, that's what they see. So it's not, like I said, I'm not using it in any explicit like outreach strategies yet. I would love to get there once I maybe have like couple more people working with me, but right now it's just really, it's like, I guess what I have is my personal branding, if that makes sense.
Well, there, there's two things that I want to do that I think would be helpful here. And so one of them is to talk about your strategy for gaining new clients. Um, before we get there, though, I'd love to be able to role play with you for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to take on the persona of either your best client or a few of your best clients, and and you were to act as if you were them and describe what Olya does for their business, what would that sound like? What words would they use?
Huh. That's a really good one. I think they would probably say I'm helping them optimize operations. because at the end, like functionally, that's what it comes down to. But the thing is, I'm not a straight up COO because I'm not just gonna look like a tooling, staffing, etc. I'm gonna look at the whole thing. So that's why it's like it's impossible for myself to put myself it's impossible for me to put myself in one category. But I think the way they would describe it is exactly this, like optimizing our operating model, optimizing our operations, helping us prioritize. Prioritization would be another phrase that they would use. Helping us maybe like to stop running like chickens with the heads cut off.
Okay.
Basically, like stopping the chaos. The chaos would be one of the words. Or on the flip side, because there are two categories of people, or I guess companies that I work with. The ones that are either like, holy shit, we need to fix what's going on internally, or the ones for whom it's like working, but they're like, we think we could do more. So like, let's get the max out of this car that we have.
Tell me about a time in your life where you experienced chaos and navigated through it in a adept way.
I mean, do we have like 5 hours here? Because I have a lot of examples. I mean, personally or professionally, or do you want the mix of both?
Whichever one you like best.
I think, okay, let's talk about like balancing kids while trying to be like the boss mom, the boss lady, whatever. And my kids
Yeah.
are still small, 3 and 5. So I think for me, one of the like really good tools that I learned through coaching, because I had a really good personal coach, because like at some point I realized I needed help beyond just therapy, because for me it's like therapy at this point is like that's just a normal thing to do, and coaching was definitely a step up. So he taught me about this very easy tool that's called the pause, and it means what it means. Like sometimes you just have to pause, breathe, like take everything out of your head, zoom out, and ask yourself, okay, what is the one important thing right now? Once the noise stops and you can finally like center your eyes on the prize, then you can then the matrix, like when one of those like numbers are running down, they're finally slowing down and you're like, oh, okay, now I see it. Oh, here's the 2 and here's the 6 and here is the 8. And that's how you can like resequence them. So when I started having kids, and there was really one by one, because there is less than 2 years difference between them, I felt like I was thrown into a river, and I was not even like swimming against the current. I wasn't swimming at all anymore. I was just like, just like being, I didn't even know where I was going. So the pause was definitely a really good tool that helped. And that's the tool that I keep bringing to the teams that I work with. Sometimes they're like, and I'm like, okay, like one at a time, we have to pause. What's the most important thing? And that's how I arrived this whole identity lifestyle design, which I realized was actually important. Sometimes I would ask the founders this one question, like ask this question of myself at least once a week. Who are you and why are you doing what you're doing? And the answer should not be performative. It should not be like, oh, I'm trying to save the world. No, give me the answer that you give to yourself on a bad day, not the answer you give to investors, clients, etc. And if you cannot answer that question truthfully, you can only answer it performatively, there is like an expiration date to what you're doing, because performance depends on the spotlight, and you do not control the spotlight. The spotlight is going to go off at some point, and then the performance stops, like the show is over. So for me, so those 2 tools, like the pause and asking yourself, who am I and why I'm doing this for, are like the 2 biggest things that help get to a breakthrough. Like with myself, like that's the work that I do on myself, and with the teams, because I like to put my money where my mouth is, as in like the tools that I use, or rather the tools that I use on the clients, I would absolutely use them on myself because I know they work, and the other way around.
Well, give me a chance to reflect back to you what you just told me. And
Sorry,
then I'm
I
going to
talk a
turn it
lot.
to
I
no,
love
not
where
at all.
this is going. This line of questioning from you, Craig, I'm glued in too.
No. Everything you said was necessary. Okay. So John, you're going to take the reins after this, but what I want to do is try to give you some language and some packaging for you to be able to use based off the story you just told me that doesn't fall into the typical buckets of fractional COO and some of these things that might be a little more cliche. What will be interesting is to kind of take some of this stuff and put it into terms and language that people, you want them to like hear it and go, yes, I know exactly what that means. But what if I'm just going to put Olya, I'm going to put you on the couch for a second and I'm going to talk to John and I'm going to introduce John to my friend Olya. Okay. John, I got to tell you about Olya. She's amazing at what she does. And what she does for founders is she puts the pause in the chaos for them. Because what they're doing is they're dealing with environments plagued by uncertainty. And all they want to do is figure out how do they optimize their operations. They want to figure out how to prioritize what's coming at them on a day-by-day basis. And what she is incredibly gifted at doing is slowing everything down, making it not about the individual tactics and all the little tiny procedural decisions that needed to be made. And she brings it up a level. And she helps people understand that the two questions that they need to have an answer to at any point in their journey is who are you and what do you do? And she does that for every single person that she comes in contact with. And from that, the result and the impact that comes from that interaction with her is increased revenue, increased business health, and increased satisfaction with what they're about to accomplish. Can I introduce you to my friend?
She sounds rad. How do I get a hold of her and hire her? I like, in all seriousness though, I didn't see the end product of your line of questioning going there, but I think what you just did really crystallized, and I'd love to hear what Olya thinks. Messaging that I'm even seeing ways of translating that into messaging to attract a wider, and when I mean wider, I don't mean like, win the popularity contest, but attract a wider group of dream clients and ideal prospects than just referrals. But I'd love to hear first, Olya, what you think about kind of what Craig just outlined there.
Olya really wants to cry right now. No, seriously, I think you packaged it really beautifully because it definitely, you see, it's the same thing. Like, you just helped me zoom out of my own chaos. Like, see the shoemaker without the shoes. I'm so like down there. I cannot even like look up and be like, that's what I'm doing. And the way you said it, I was like, what the fuck? That sounds so good. I would hire myself.
Well, that's the hope, right?
Exactly. No, I think the delivery was great. And even though I didn't point out the success points, you named them. And usually it's like, bigger revenues, healthier margins, and just literally the satisfaction. You named it. And that's the thing people don't say until I like drag it out of them. I'm like, do you actually want to be happy running this business or what?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. Because a lot of times it's like, actually, like some of the other prospects that I'm talking to, they're like, oh, we're fine, it's blah, blah, we don't really. And I'm like, are you happy though? And they'll be like, what does that have to do with anything? I'm like, just answer the question. And they'll be like, no, I'm honestly burnt out. And I'm like, here you go. I'm like, is that how you want to live your life for the next 5 years? And then that's where the pause comes in.
Yeah. So that's the distinction that you have to draw out in people, because there's what they want or what they think they want, and there's what they need. And my coaching business is very much the same thing, right? So I help people work out how are we going to create essentially a 90-day plan to increase profits in their business. Every single time. The conversation toward the inner work, towards imposter syndrome, toward fear of pricing, all of these things. But I don't come out of the gate talking about that stuff because that's not the bleeding neck problem that people have. And so my challenge to you is to, in the words, the phrasing that your ICP thinks about when they're taking a shower, when they're washing their car, doing whatever, whatever words they use for the problems that they have, meet them in that space, but give them an experience so powerful that they see that, oh, okay, I'm starting here, but I can go there with her help.
Well, I think too, just to kind of double down on that and really dive into my area that I get excited about in terms of messaging and content and distribution and those kinds of things is we're in 2026 now, and we have the pleasure of being able to take this transcript. And I would invite you to do this, Olya. Plug it into, I use Claude, but ChatGPT, whatever you want to use, and get just ask it to extract the messaging that Craig talks about. It will know. Because I do think, and something that I work with my clients on too, is with content specifically, with messaging, is finding that gap that I think, or let's say bridge, that I think Craig helped extract here, which is your ICP starting point is, I know there are growth levers that I need to pull on. I don't know exactly what those growth levers are. Excuse me. The end goal is growth. Most of the time, that's going to be revenue. But you don't want to fall into that, like you were saying, COO, CMO, fractional language that just commoditizes you straight out of the gate. But what Craig kind of uncovered is, I do think too, in 2026, so much of the consulting, coaching, it's a very saturated industry, and it's getting more and more saturated as we go by. And so just promoting, like, I'm going to increase your revenue at whatever growth stage you're at by either X amount or Y revenue isn't going to get you anywhere.
Right.
But articulating that gap that Craig pulled out for us is the insight that's going to differentiate. So I'm kind of saying a lot, and let me get more precise with it, is like injecting in that question as the way to get you, like what are we even doing? Like what's important for you? Injecting that to get to the revenue is a way of creating a pillar for your content, or even sharing your story about not being able to keep your head above water with 2 children back to back in such a small compressed amount of time. Your outcome isn't going to be more revenue, but it's growing your business, and there's an insight in there that's going to get people to lean in and be like, "Oh, this is just a different message to still get me to my end goal." And I think that's where the differentiation starts to come out of it. I did wanna kind of highlight that and see ways of putting that into messaging and content.
I think it makes a lot of sense to me, and I think I finally like arrived at the phrase, like literally in the last couple of weeks, that made sense to me. Although I haven't really asked anyone else if that makes sense. Basically, I said to myself, "What do I want? I want something that's not average. I don't want an average life. I don't want an average business. I don't want to be average." And like, it's not something that I use as a cliche, right? It's like really, I'm gonna bring in the zodiac signs. I'm a fucking crazy Aquarius. Of course, I'm not supposed to be average. Hell, I'm wearing a fucking fur coat to your podcast interview. Like, that's who I am. And I've been like suppressing this for years because I had no idea that this was my saying, you know? Like, I thought I was supposed to like box myself in some perfect box and be like, yeah, that's who I am, blah, blah. Because I'm a perpetual immigrant too. Like, I've lived in several different countries at this point, and all of them were like radically different one from another, so I had to adapt. And I think adaptability plays a really like cruel game on you at some point. So now I'm finally, if you will, coming out of the box, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a mad scientist working in a lab, and I don't want to work with average or rather I want to work with companies who don't want to be average. That's my headline on LinkedIn today. But what you were just saying, John, I played with that phrase 2 more weeks ago. I was like, I want to work with founders who want to grow their business without losing their soul. Because that's something that I kind of hear on the background. They're like, we want to grow the business, but we also don't want to be like, slaving away for it 24/7. Because at the end of the day, that's what most of them have in mind, unless they're like just driven by an exit. It's like, oh, I just want to like grow this to 10 exit and then exit and then like retire early. But that's a very small bucket of people.
Well, so few people will actually
Exactly.
achieve an
Exactly.
exit anyways.
Exactly.
So your well is deep. You have all of these life experiences, these different countries that you've lived in, so much rich history in your life to be able to draw on. And I would imagine that many times in your life, as you were already talking about earlier, like it's just been chaotic. It's been, so many different things that you've had to work through. And I'm curious, if you were to play with the phrase pause the chaos, I don't know if that resonates with your ICP, or it'd be interesting for you to test it out in a little bit. But I see that as being like a part of your messaging, to be able to say the breakneck pace at which it takes in order to run a company like the people whom you serve run is madness. And so being able to step back and ask the right questions and think thoughtfully and carefully through what is important in order for them to achieve the goals that they want, that's what you do.
And to go back to one of John's points, it's like, I think, and John, correct me if I misunderstood it, but it kind of sounds like I should be like gearing more towards like emotional stuff versus like practicality. Like, is that what you're trying to say? It's like,
Sort of.
okay.
I think you used a phrase earlier that I think is important to bring back. You said, I want to be, excuse me, out of the box, right? I don't want to be average. I don't want to work with people who want to be average. I don't even want to work with businesses that want to do the cookie cutter, sell, move to St. Bart and just end my life drinking pina coladas for the rest of my life. Like, you don't want to work with those people. What I think is part of the formula that I adopt in my own messaging, that I urge my clients to adopt, is the outcome that your dream client wants should remain in the box. That should be, all outcomes fall into the 3 eternal markets, right? Health, wealth, and happiness. Okay.
Right.
Health, I want to lose 20 pounds. That needs to stay inside the box. I want to make more money. That needs to stay inside the box. I want to make up with my wife and not end our marriage. That stays in the box. 3 eternal markets. The way you get there, that's where the opportunity comes for you to stay out of the box. And so I think what I was trying to articulate was everything that Craig kind of went through in that line of questioning with you, everything I've heard you talk about, whether it's both with your personal life when he asked you about the struggle that you went through, and it's the clients that you currently work with or have worked with in the past, everything in between of how we get there. There's so much opportunity for you to share yourself, to share this crazy, like whether it's actually Aquarius, whether it's I wear a fur coat when I, do this stuff, or it's the language that you have and these conversations that you have and putting that into content and messaging. That's going to get people to lean in and say like, oh, I know I have this problem. I need to grow. Whatever the growth looks like, that remains in the box. How we get there is why they choose you over the gray, generic, I'm just going to give you all these metrics. We're going to do things like the military and we're going to scale and, in 18 months, you'll be in St. Bart. Like there's your differentiation. And that's what's going to separate you in this every single day getting more and more cluttered and saturated just world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And to go back to the phrase that Craig, you brought up, like pause the chaos, I think it resonates a lot with people, but that's not like the first thing they want to admit. Because once I get on those like discovery calls, all of the first thing they say is like, oh, we're doing great and we just want to be doing better than that. And then through the conversation, sometimes even already in due diligence process, I see like, okay, shit, there's actually so much, but they don't want to admit it. And I think even to themselves.
Ready to be on the growth question and get coaching for your business? We're always looking for businesses and people just like you to be breakdown guests for the show. Just go to tgq.tool/apply. Tell us a little bit about your business and your growth question. Awesome. Cannot wait to meet you. Now let's get back to the conversation.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, like I said in the past, was what your acquisition channel looks like. So you talked a little bit about a LinkedIn strategy, but I'd love to hear about how you're approaching getting new clients.
That's a painful one, you know? No, I think so, because you mentioned that you work with your clients through imposter syndrome and whatnot. I'm definitely struggling with it. Like, as confident as I might come off in this interview, like, I have a massive imposter syndrome. I have ADHD, and I'm definitely like trying to work through self-sabotage. It's like a lot better than what it used to be compared to me before my coach with whom I worked at the beginning of last year, but it's still present. So as I'm like open about all my stuff, I accidentally picked up the first clients because they were just people that I met through my founder journey, and they've been following me around. And when they saw that I was like finishing my journey and actually going back to doing growth, that's exactly how they describe it. They're like, "Oh my God, would you work with us?" And so I haven't really done much in that area. And when I started thinking about it, I'm like, okay, I could probably reach out to like a lot of other people whom I met last year, and also even like some of my previous employers, because this is like a super low hanging fruit. And I know that a couple of them could really use my help right now. But then again, this is like a teeny tiny part of my pipeline, even for this year, because I know like where I want to be money wise and like number of clients wise. So I know that there's going to come a point very soon that I'm going to have to like actually engage in pipeline generation. And I have a massive problem with that. Like, how do I overcome myself? That would be my question to you guys. Cause like, I know it's out there for me on LinkedIn. It's not, there is no like tricks really, but like, how do I get out of my own way?
Oh, John, you want to go first or?
No, I see you salivating over there. And I feel like you've helped me with this too. So I'm actually very curious.
So you operate in a very high trust space. So outbound LinkedIn strategies and all that kind of stuff has its place. But I think what's more important for you is relationships. And how many referrals have you asked for in the last 3 months?
Like explicitly, I haven't asked for anything. People were like offering to introduce me to somebody in their network. But since I was like still figuring out what is exactly that I was going to be doing, I never like really took them up on it. And I know I have this like massive opportunity because of how many founders I met last year. And I just can't fucking write those emails. Like literally, I would be like, okay, today's the day. I'm going to write those emails. There's so many people that I can message. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I gotta just pass the vacuum cleaner real fast. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna go post on LinkedIn. So I would do anything and everything else and not write those
Okay.
emails.
So we're gonna get you past this right now. Okay. So here's what you're gonna do. You're not gonna write any emails at all. You go back to your existing clients and you say it's February. And I've realized that with the people that I work with, that after the first of the year comes around, January is gone in a blink of an eye, and all of a sudden we're rolling up on February, and people aren't always clear on exactly what they need to do. I've got 3 open spots in my calendar. Would you like one of them? I'd love to just re-engage with you and figure out what we talked about in the past worked, hadn't worked, or whatever. You get on that call with them. You serve them as powerfully as possible. You reserve the last portion of that call and you say, hey, we went through a lot of really cool stuff. Do you happen to know anyone who would value this type of an interaction as well? And they say that yes, or they say no. And if they say yes, you say, okay, cool. Well, instead of you just like sending them an email introducing the two of us, tell me a little bit about who they are, what problems they have, and why you think maybe I might be a good fit. Okay. And then after you get them in that headspace of trying to understand the other person's problems and how you may be able to help, then you can get them in a position where maybe they make an introduction between the 3 of you. Because what you don't want to do is essentially just get put into a situation where now you have a name, but you're just doing a cold email or cold call or whatever. You want this person to introduce you to them. And since you operate in such a high trust environment, if you have someone who's raving about what you do, that will go a long way. But then it's not like this sort of icky feeling like I'm commenting on people's stuff on LinkedIn to do it. Like, that's important. That does show your credibility, but that's not necessarily your main focus for outreach. And I think if you kind of focus on these areas, if you said 3 times at least, people followed you around. Most people can't say that. So I would bet money on the fact that those people who followed you around know others who would be delighted to be able to have you in their life as well.
But I have this like blockage of even messaging those people. I would literally like, there's somebody who offered to give me a referral, and they were basically, the last email that I got from them was, hey, so how should I position you? And I completely froze. That was like end of December, and I was still figuring out. And of course, I had to get to this perfect fucking headline to finally reply to them like a month later. Oh, yeah, here's how I position myself. By the way, sorry for like a month delay getting back to you. Needless to say, I haven't heard back from them. It's been a week because they're probably like, yeah,
Sure.
she's a fucking crazy person.
Well, what I'm suggesting is to do it live, number one. Let me model this for you.
Okay.
What's been, in our conversation, what's been the biggest insight that you've come away with so far?
There are definitely multiple. So the way you like said it back to me, what I'm actually doing and what value it brings, and I was like, holy shit, I actually do some important stuff. So it's like hearing somebody say it back to me, it actually, I think, removed a layer of that imposter stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm legit. Holy shit. Another
Yeah.
adult told me that. Like, this is great. No, but also like the way you word it, it's like, it's something that I could repeat to the founders and not like question myself whether like, oh my God, are they gonna understand it? Then what you, John, said about like get closer to the emotional stuff versus like trying to always like attach it to the practical stuff. And this, Craig, what you just said, like actually just like get them on the phone instead of like writing messages, which feels like super cringe to me right now, is also like another unlock because it's so easy for me to get on the phone. Like it's just like no brainer. But
Yeah.
writing the goddamn email is like I would literally be like,
Well, you come alive in person. I can see that.
yes.
Okay. So knowing that you got those unlocks through this conversation, who's in your network? Who do you know that would be interested in maybe having a conversation like this with us?
Oh
Just
my
think of
God,
one
so
name.
many. And you want you want somebody in the service area.
Based off the conversation we've had here, who's someone that you care a lot about that you feel like would be able to benefit from this type of interaction? You don't even have to use the
It's
real
actually
name, but just
no. I know exactly. It's somebody who I met on LinkedIn. It was right before Christmas, and we like instantly became best friends. She's based in Arizona. Her name is Sarah, and she's in the revenue services.
okay.
And hey, you're probably like, oh my gosh, she's gonna bring zodiac signs in again. Yes, I am. So she's Gemini, and we're like, we amplify each other's craziness, and I think that's why we instantly hit it off. But
Right.
she isn't like she's just such a good human being, and she
I
would be
love it.
great on your show, and she would definitely benefit from this exercise.
So what kind of problem do you think that she has that we might be able to help her out with?
Definitely positioning. Because
Okay.
she's coming from a couple of like really big companies, InVision and can't remember the other one, but basically she has this like bigger, more like corporate background at this point, and she would like to work with smaller companies. And she's like, sometimes I feel like there is a mismatch between what I'm saying and how they see it. Because I remember she sent me her one pager, and I'm like, dude, this looks like McKinsey or something. I'm like, you're not pitching like Fortune 500 company on your services. I'm like, startups are gonna like look at this like this. I'm like, you need to be able to tone it down. And now she's not even like sure anymore if she should be doing this at all. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
pause. Like, I think you're really good at this. You just need either I'm like, by the way, and I don't know why precisely she wants to work with the startups. I think she told me, but I forgot. So I'm like, you either have to switch the target, maybe just stay in your lane type of thing. It's like, if you know the other bigger company is so much better, why not just approach them? Like, why do you want to work with smaller guys? If this is your passion, like you really want to try it, then you have to like make a switch in your head, but that doesn't happen instantaneously. So I feel like you could really help her understand how to either make the switch in her head or if she should refocus back on the bigger guys.
Okay. So how comfortable would you feel sending her like a video text, introducing John and I to her, and mentioning some of those things that you just
Super
drew out?
comfortable. We're like WhatsApp friends at this point.
Okay.
I'm like, we're not on LinkedIn anymore. It's WhatsApp territory, you know? Sorry, I like
So
clowning out.
no, that's fine. But do you see what I just did?
Yeah.
Holy
Oh, yeah.
shit. Okay. Wow. That felt supernatural.
Right.
Like I didn't feel like I didn't even like think twice. I didn't feel cringe. It didn't feel like you were milking me for a referral. That felt like organic.
That was cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was really cool. Wow. Plus, you made me feel good about it. I think that was the most important part. I was like excited to introduce Sarah to you. So I felt like I was doing something that mattered, you know, or being of service rather.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite coaches I learned from him was that a referral is a gift. If you've experienced something that's changed your life, made it better or whatever, you should be excited and want to share that with others. So you're giving them a gift of saying, you have to work with Olya. She's going to change your life. She's going to change your business.
I need to work with Olya. No, you're seriously getting me pumped. And like, that's, I think, the pump that I've been missing recently. I feel like I can get other people excited for anything else besides myself.
Just, it takes practice. And like John said, take this transcript, watch this back.
I was going to ask you for the transcript. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so on that note, if someone does fit your ICP and would love to work with you, how would they get a hold of you?
LinkedIn, because it has a link in bio where they can schedule a discovery call. And that's what I prefer. I'm like, just, oh my God, you see, even that connects. Like, that's what I prefer. Like, I'd rather somebody schedules a call with me and we talk, because at like the point of growth, like as a company is certain like stage, it's like super hard to get to something meaningful through a written conversation because there is just so much. Like, it's just a lot easier to talk it out on the phone. And just like you said, like, I definitely, like, my personality plays a big role in the way, like, people, like, it's a high trust.
They need to see the fur
exactly.
coat.
Exactly.
They got to see it. I mean, come on.
I know a lot of people said it to me. They're like, we already liked your content on LinkedIn, but like when we actually saw in person, we were like, fuck yes, like she's exactly what she sounds like on LinkedIn.
Well, this has been a delight. I've had.
Oh my God, yes, this is best Friday night I've had in a while.